my channel or welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, sometimes Mouse, and I talk about books and book-related things. And today I'm giving you kind of a mid-year check-in on my stats, kind of a preview of what the end of the year stats are going to look like. I figured because we are currently in the middle month of the year, that this would be a good time to go ahead and give you guys those stats. Now, by the time this video comes out, it will be next week, but A for effort on my part, right? Anyway, this is a very stats heavy video, so if this is not your thing, I recommend just moving on to a different video. If you do want to know about all of the reading that I've done and how my reading has changed so far this year, then stick around because I will get into all of those things. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into those stats. So as of today, June 13th, 2023, these are my stats for the year so far. I have currently read a total of 133 books, which is not amazing and not bad. For me, it's pretty middle ground. There was a year I read over 700 books, and then there have been years where I read 200, 300 books. I am this year not putting any pressure on myself with that. I don't care how many books I read. I'm just reading because I enjoy reading. I DNF'd a total of 2 books, which is not a whole lot. I read a total of 32,243 pages, and if you will recall, if you've watched any of my other videos, you will know that I only count the pages of books that I actually read with my eyes versus listened to with my ears. I listened for a total of 20 days, 23 hours, and 19 minutes worth of audiobooks. I finished a book on average within 3 days. I read a total of 134.1 pages per day on average. I listened on average for 5 hours, 44 minutes, and 35 seconds per day, and my average books per month is 22. My highest reading month is going to be May, where I read 30 books, and my lowest reading month, while that would be June, but we're kind of in the middle of June, so I'm still reading right now, my lowest reading month would be March, where I read 21 books. And for the different formats of books, 20 of the books that I read this year so far have been rereads, so that makes up 15% of my reading. For further formats, 53 of them were print books, which makes up 38% of my reading. This is kind of a surprising number to me. I definitely would not have expected that to be the case. I, prior to this year, was very big on listening to audiobooks rather than visual reading, but I think that there's been kind of a shift in my life. If you've watched my videos, you know what I'm talking about. And then also my job has changed, so I don't really have time to listen to audiobooks so much, as much as I used to. So now it is a lot of reading with my eyes at night to kind of wind down at the end of the day. It's my wind down hours is what I call them. I did read 50 audiobooks though, so audiobooks are still pretty prevalent, just not as prevalent, which makes up 36% of my reading, and then 37 of them were digital books, which makes up 26% of my reading. As a side note, I have been requesting fewer and fewer advanced reader copies and kind of letting those taper out as I try to get kind of my life back in order. I haven't written a full blog review in a really long time, and I would like to get that kind of in order before I start requesting books again, and kind of deciding where I want to be posting about these things. Do I want to post on Instagram? The answer to that is no. Do I want to post on TikTok? How do I want to handle those things? I haven't decided yet, and so I am refraining from requesting books. So a lot of the digital copies that I usually read throughout the year are advanced reader copies, and so that's where that difference is. For the publication date, I thought this was kind of an interesting statistic because prior to this year, a lot of this number would have been kind of the same, a standard date. So those dates have kind of changed because I have read a few more classics than I normally would have, and by that I mean I never would have read them before, so that's a bit of a change. So 76% of the books that I've read this year were published after 2020, which is to be expected. I read more modern writing. 17% were published between 2016 and 2020. 12% were published between 2011 and 2015, and 5% were published between 2001 and 10%, and the rest are 1% of dates between 1801, as far back as 1801, and the year 2000. She can't have been through the year 3000, right? So that's kind of an interesting shift. Like I said, don't generally read classics. That has never been my jam, and so seeing the differences in the way that my reading has changed and the way that my reading has grown up, which I will be getting into in the next stats, has been kind of fun to watch. I feel like my preferences have definitely changed and grown with me as I've changed and grown, and it's interesting to reflect back on, especially if I look back on any of my other videos. Of the age groups, speaking of growing up, the age groups of books that I've read, and now it's been a goal the last few years, the last couple of years anyway, for me to read more adult than young adult books, because I just felt like I was aging out of the group, or out of the age category, and that I needed to start finding adult books that I could enjoy. I've discovered that I don't love adult fantasy. Kind of, like I do, but I don't, but I do love adult thriller horror. So with that being said, 66% of the books that I've read this year are adult books. So that is like above and beyond any goal I could have had. I think last year it was kind of a 50-50 split between young adult and adult, and so I'm kind of proud of the fact that halfway through the year, a large chunk of the books that I read are adult books. 23% of them are young adult, which totally makes sense, especially as I continue series or finish out series, it's gonna be young adult. And then 11% of them are children's or middle grade. I know me, and I know that they were all middle grade, so I don't really read kids books, and if I do, I don't necessarily log them. Like I have a kids book on my coffee table that I've read multiple times. I'm not logging that in Goodreads, so it doesn't show up in these stats. 96% of the books that I've read so far this year are fiction books, and 4% of them are nonfiction. That's kind of to be expected. I occasionally read things on abolition or memoirs, but I don't do a whole lot of nonfiction, so that kind of makes sense. Now for genres, and as you can see, this is the book blanket, which you will get an update on when I do my updated crochet video, or I might do a crochet wrap-up or a crochet, or a full, book blanket mid-year update as soon as I get June completed. I have June started. This is the start for June. We've got a stack for June, but until I get June completed, I'm not going to give the mid-year update for the book blanket. I also think that around that time is when I will clean it up, because it is very messy at the moment. But anyway, for genres, we have, and these are in order of greatest to least, 37% of the books that I've read so far this year are fantasy, 24% are horror. This kind of surprised me. I thought that thriller was definitely going to beat out horror, because I had a couple of months where it felt like there was non-stop thriller books and it was hard to figure out the blocks, but it turns out that I've consistently read horror throughout the year, and so it kind of found a balance there. But 15% of them were thrillers and 24% were horror, like I said. 11% were sci-fi, 4% were nonfiction, 3% were contemporary, and then historical, general fiction, and classics all are at 1% respectively. Not too bad. I'm, again, very surprised by the classics thing, but I think that it's because I've found that I enjoy neoclassic horror quite a bit. So horror that was published sometime within the in the 1960s, 1950s, I'm kind of enjoying those. So that's what I've been reading. Now, I'm going to talk about how many books I've acquired and how much money I've spent on books. And I also want to give kind of a precursor and a conversation starter about that, because I do have a video planned for this topic. So I'm not going to get too deep into it, but I am going to kind of introduce the topics so that it's in your heads for when that video does come out. So this year I've only acquired 11 books, and quite a lot of them were gifts. And I've spent $79.97, which for the middle of the year, honestly, not too bad. I think my limit was like 1 book a month, and if I hadn't bought a book the previous month, I could roll it over. And the most expensive book that I bought was the Chain of Thorns by Cassandra Clare, because it was the Fairy Loot edition. Everything else that I've purchased has been considerably cheaper, within the under $15 range, because I don't need to spend that much money on books. I think that it is a problem within the book community with how much we flex hauls and unhauls even, and I will say that those videos do really well, and it's easy to make clickbait, it's easy to make, they're super easy videos to make, so I understand why we make those videos. But I also think that it's a problem, especially when most people are not even reading the books that they've purchased. They just have them, and it's a lot of books. Or they were given the books, they were gifts, they didn't purchase them, and they don't clarify that information. And I think that that's also a problem, because me, when I was a viewer, was very confused about how these people bought all of these books. I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had. I'm not going to have it in this video, but I am going to have a video about it, and I'm going to be as nice and gentle as possible. But I do think that this is kind of a problem, and we should be looking into it or addressing it or doing better about it. We should do better, especially as things get more and more expensive and finances are more and more stressful for people. We should be a little bit more transparent about how we're acquiring books. Anyway, that's my soapbox for now, the intro to my soapbox. But yeah, that's it. That is the mid-year check-in. I did this last year and I had a lot of fun with it. I really like talking about stats, so this is fun for me. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments down below. If you have questions about how I obtained these stats, I am using Art's Google Sheets doc. That's how I do all of this. Now there are a few things that are personalized for me, but that's because Art did them for my Google Sheets doc last year, and so we just kind of carried it over. By we, I definitely just mean her. I just messaged her and was like, I can't do this, I tried. So there's that. But if you wondered, that's how I'm tracking that. You can find the link to that down below, and if you want a personalized Google Sheets doc or whatever, you can commission Art to do that for you. She does really great work, and she's really good at Google Sheets. It's kind of an incredible skill that I definitely don't have, and I have to shout her praises to the skies because she's incredible and very fast. So I love that. So yeah, enough about Art. But that's it. That is the mid-year check-in. I wanted to call it a wrap-up. It's not a wrap-up because it's not the end of the year, but that kind of gives you a preview to the end of my year. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you didn't enjoy this video, I'm sorry. I'd say let me know how I can make it better, but I only do these once a year. The mid-year check-in once a year, and then the end of the year wrap-up. So that's all you get. And if you just don't like me either, bestie. I'm kidding, and that is a joke. Nobody needs to be concerned. But anyway, that's gonna be it from me. I post videos almost every single week. Sometimes I take a break for sanity and content checking to make sure that my content kind of stays consistently good, so a little bit of a creator break. But I post videos every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, almost every single week. So hopefully I will see you guys later on this week for my weekly vlog, and if not, okay. That's it. Don't forget to take your meds, drink your water, and do something today to take care of yourselves. Okay, thanks, bye.